Good evening. This is the call to order of the regular Board of Aldermen meeting at the Salado Municipal Building located at 301 North Stagecoach Road in Salado, Texas. The date is September 5th, 2024, and it is 6:30 p.m. Ms. Bean, please call the roll.
Let the record show all present.
Thank you, ma'am. As we begin this Board of Aldermen meeting, let us take a moment to reflect on our shared commitment to serve the diverse community of the Village of Salado. We invite all present, regardless of faith, belief, or philosophy, to join us in a spirit of unity, respect, and compassion. May our deliberations be guided by wisdom, our decisions rooted in fairness, and our actions driven by the common good. Whether you find inspiration in a higher power, the bonds of humanity, or the wonders of nature, let us work together to build a culture where every voice is heard and every individual is valued. Let's take a moment, please. Thank you. Please join me for the national anthem, the Pledge of Allegiance and a salute to the Texas flag. Mayor Pro Tem Bell is going to sing. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the flag of the United States, one nation, under God, one. Thank you. I'm going to kind of get out of order here a little bit tonight, and I'm going to move, just prior to public comments, I'm going to move item 6G on the agenda, which is discuss and consider possible action on a request from Legacy CTX Board of Directors that the pedestrian bridge between Pace Park and Barrel Brewing Company be retracted during the October 5th, 2024 Serena Fest 2024 event. I'm doing that because for a couple of reasons. Number one, I've spoken with both parties involved on either side of that bridge, if you will. They have come to an agreement, and both are okay with what I'm about to do. And also, the board back in December already deliberated on this, and so for that reason, we're not going to take any action on this. We're not going to have a vote to remove the bridge or not. The understanding is that Barrow will provide staffing for the bridge for that day of that event, and we can go ahead and squash this now. Manny, is this something that we need to vote on, or can we? No action. No. So if you guys are good with it on the board, no action on that item. Okay. All right. Next, public comments. The Board of Aldermen welcomes comments from citizens on issues and items of concern not on the agenda. Those wishing to speak must sign in before the meeting begins and observe a 5-minute time limit when addressing the board. Speakers will have one opportunity to speak during this time period. Speakers desiring to speak on an agenda item will be allowed to speak when the agenda item is called. Inquiries about matters not listed on the agenda will either be directed to staff or placed on a future agenda for Alderman consideration. First up, we've got Mr. Jim Boynton.
Jim Boynton, 3565 FM 2843 in Salado. Last meeting, I was pretty appalled about walking in this meeting area and seeing somebody just absolute giddy about causing an election because they disagreed before it was ever voted on about raising the tax. One of the things I think that has happened is our citizens have gotten tax cuts when everything else in the world has gone skyrocketed. How can we be given tax cuts and our citizens expect them to be able to have the same services? And y'all are forced into this. That's not something that y'all wanted to do. The thing that irritated me as much as anything else, there was some pointing out of people not paying taxes, and they were pointing out that only one person on the board paid taxes. Let me assure you of about 2 or 3 things. Number one, that person voted with a whole crew that basically causes corruption to come to pass. We're out of control because nobody took action when we had a city manager and a mayor
If you have your cell phones on, can you put them on silent or turn them off, please?
Anyway, to point somebody out over others, I was appalled, and I could not believe that there wasn't anybody that stood up. I've given it a week and a half before I spoke. Number one thing is, when he spoke to the mayor, he basically had a disdain for a guy who's renting a house. Now, let me tell you something about our mayor. Everybody here knows he got voted in to clean this mess up. What they probably don't know is, like in my household, we've had sick individuals. His wife has been sick for years. She was in a hospital on a ventilator for 45 or 49 days. I had a daughter in the hospital 45 straight days with a brain tumor. You're so excited to get them home. The next morning, you're woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning by a dump truck backing in your yard, dumping bills that would choke a horse. The idea that our mayor doesn't live in a good enough house or isn't good enough because he doesn't live in Mill Creek is absurd. But I want to tell you something. That is the slant that I've heard in this town for years. They didn't care about me trying to build nice houses for my kids. I didn't live in Mill Creek, so I was not part of the solution. The bigger problem I have is singling out our veterans. Our veterans earn their benefits, and they should have earned our respect. There should have been a line out the door for people saying, BS, we're tired of this. To attack these guys that have gone, they paid their taxes. They paid their taxes in blood, sweat, and tears. Being a firefighter for years, I was on the terrorism task force in Austin. One of the biggest things that they teach you right when you start off, and these guys can disagree with me anytime, Americans are targeted, but most especially Jewish Americans and Israelis. God has commanded us to take care of them. I don't care what anybody else here thinks or says. God commanded us. They're the chosen ones. We're here to take care of them. And for somebody to come in and brag about paying $70,000 for an education and on his website having a house on the coast or a condo on the coast and then ridiculing the mayor or these guys, I sat down and figured out what his tax bill would be. About $12.50 a week, $12.50 from what his tax bill would have been. That's after we took pay cuts and didn't hold anybody accountable. You guys paid the price. Jason Graham told me, and he's just a prime example, 30-year career, 5 years in combat. Let's see the hand of anybody here that wants the part of that. Y'all want a part of that? Who is taking care of his family? A lot of times they give them combat pay because they're off and they can't. Some of us, like myself and Bert, were more than willing to jump in and help people through the years. But I'm telling you, the attitude towards you guys is sickening. We got a chance to straighten this out. We better ride the guys that we talked into helping us, because if we keep attacking them like that, that is so classless. And what's even more classless, that everybody ain't speaking up about it.
Thank you. Ms. June Ritterbush, would you still like to speak on this item? Should we? June Ritterbush. Mr. Kennison, do you want to speak now, or you want to wait until the agenda item is called? Okay. And Mr. Michaels, same, you want to wait for that agenda? Okay. All right, any other public comments? Anybody not signed up that wants to get up and speak? Nope. All right, moving on. Item 2, consent agenda. A is approval of minutes of August 12th, 2024 for a special called Board of Aldermen meeting. B, approval of minutes of August 15th, 2024, regular Board of Aldermen meeting. C is approval of the minutes of August 22nd, 2024 for a special called Board of Aldermen meeting. D is approval of minutes of August 26th, 2024 for the special called Board of Aldermen meeting. And E is to accept the letter of resignation from Commissioner Ron Cunningham from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Mr. Del Rosa, you want to speak to that, to E, or?
No, sir.
No.
No, we can discuss that when we get to the
Okay.
appointment.
All right, anybody have any questions? No, I'll open the floor for a motion.
Make a motion to approve A, B, C, D, and E as written.
Motion made by Alderman Hurst to approve as written,
Second.
seconded by Alderman McDonald. Any further discussion?
Question.
Question called by Alderman Graham. All in favor for approving the consent agenda items A through E, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Passes, Ms. Dean, 4-0. 3, discuss and consider possible action regarding any item removed from the consent agenda that's not applicable. 4, status reports. A is the village administrator report, update on the hiring of a public works maintenance employee, update on website information. Got that. Mr. Del Rosa.
Mayor, Alderman, good evening. Good evening to everyone else. Wanted to let you know that we did hire a public works employee. That person starts Monday, September the 9th. Lives in town. His name is Johnny Hornbeck. He's coming to us from the city of Morgan's Point Resort with a little over 3.5 years of experience in exactly the same type of work that we're going to expect here. So starts Monday. And secondly, I wanted to move on. At the last meeting, there was some comments made about some of the financials missing back in 2023. We did go back, search for them, and loaded them. So, and as we're going through the website, we're cleaning out the old information that's no longer relevant and updating it with more pertinent information. And we're also moving some of the web pages around to make them much more user-friendly and more readable. That's all I've got, Mayor and Alderman.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Graham, you have any questions?
No question.
Alderman Hurst?
No question.
Alderman McDonald?
No questions, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell? Good. All right. Item B for status reports. Tourism Department. The tourism plan, Ms. Whitson.
Good evening, Mayor and gentlemen. Thanks for allowing me to be here this evening. This evening, I am going to present to you our plan and our vision for the tourism side. The next slide, please. When looking over here over at our vision and what ideas we could come to mind, our goals and our objectives, I asked ourselves some questions. What do we need to do in order to bring growth to our town? And then what will truly bring visitors and draw our visitors in? So next page. So we did a study, and I've been in the tourism department for 3 months now, and I did it on Saturdays. And my vision for Saturdays was, where does the time need to go? When I did the study, it's a 12-week, June through August, we had a total of 105 visitors here in our visitor center. It averages a total of 8 visitors maybe in that day, or maybe you have 10 visitors and it's just one trip, and that's the rest of it. You've got 6 hours in that time period. So it led me to ask, what do we need to do to validate our time and utilize it properly? And in that, I did some I looked at destination marketing, and I went into our analytics section. And our analytics shows we have we have an average 2,500 people that stop here in Salado daily. And with that average, that is, in our program, we can put the radius where it generates people who are within 50 miles of the radius outside of that. So that does not include any of our residents in here. And their average length of stay is a day. So the question is, where's the extra 2,492 people, right? This is what helps us to bring and generate sales tax for you guys, the village. So when I looked at it, the next slide, please. Doing the research on it, social media is a huge platform. If you look at social media and you look at the other cities, they are creating a story of their town, the excitement, the movement. That's what people are looking for. The other side of that is when they're trying to create where they're going to come and visit their destination, they're going back to social media as well to book. Where are they going to book? Where are they going to go? Next slide. So that was my decision factor. 8 people I can get in touch with, or the 2,492 people. Brings back to that Saturday that you guys have gotten the email for. Time, where's my time and my value? What do I need to do with it? I need to build relationships, and out of that relationship comes success. Businesses are booming, excitement's in town, and everybody's excited. We've got visitors here. Next slide. So then my focus is profitability. Obviously, that's our main focus, but not just the main focus, it's the value that we give our customers, our visitors. And then how do we create that image when we do that? Next slide. So our vision is several factors. We have a QR code, and you guys have heard me mention in our last meeting that I've spoken to the hotels. They're excited to give us a board or a specific wall that represents Salado to put our QR code in, rack cards. They're all on board. One of them's even talking about putting one in every room in their rooms. We have businesses now who are also asking, please bring rack cards. Please put your QR code in our businesses. What we want to do is we know that 2,492 people are probably off the highway. They're probably on the access road. And so we want to also put that QR code on that side. Why not have them at the gas stations? Why not have them when they're filling up gas? And people are wanting to know what's all about Salado. We want to create the image, the vibe that come to Main Street, take a break from the highway, and come and see us and why we are here. On that QR code, it also helps the businesses because it shows their locations, it shows their name of the business, their website, their hours. I mean, they are touching those businesses as well too. So that's where we came with the QR code. Our social media side, well, again, the social media is going to hit their senses. You have a touch, you have with that is Facebook. Facebook does it by sight. Where's the vision? Where's the, what is enticing Salado? The creek, the businesses. You've got music. You've got cornhole. Corn toss or whatever it's called. Sorry, I'm a little nervous if you can hear it in my voice. But anyways, Facebook does it does it by sight, and then it interacts. We have an interaction with Facebook. Then you have Instagram. Instagram is that little kid. Mom, we gotta go and get this piece of candy. We gotta go and do this. It brings that excitement, immediate excitement for Instagram. Now you've got that. Then you have your YouTube, and YouTube tells a story, and that is what we are here to create, is to tell a story. We did our first interview this week with a business to create a story, and our vision is every business owner here is unique. They all have a talent, and we want to share that. We don't have a corporation here. We have individuals. They came here with a heart. They have a passion. We need to honor their mission as well too. That's what we hear at tourism side. So we are starting to do videos, and we've been very blessed to have people who have said, I'll do your video for you. Melanie is here, my team, on my team, and her daughter has offered her video for us. She's doing it with a school project, and it gives her a school project, and it gives her experience, and it helps us to launch it. So we did our first one on Tuesday. We plan to send it out next week. And we also have our own day tripper influencer here for Salado, and I cannot wait to share that with you. I'm going to keep that a secret, but we've been working on it, and it goes out next Tuesday. So keep an eye on our social media so you can see who your little Salado Village influencer is going to be. Again, creating a story. When people come, we've asked, what are you here for? They said the charm, the unique, and so that's what we're doing. If you hit it on Facebook and then you share the rest of the story on YouTube, you hit very many different platforms, which also enhances promoting Salado. All of social media is at your fingertips, very inexpensive. And then we look at relationships. We all know relationships build success. So we are here with our businesses. We've already started promoting that. Where our office is located, we do a lot of collaboration and a lot of creativity. We have the chamber right next to us. They have been gracious to introduce business owners to me when they come into town and they meet. Then I'm not just a phone call or a salesperson sounding. I'm an actual person that they know through the chamber. I've brought business to, or excuse me, tourism has brought business to the chamber when people don't necessarily know have the tools. The chamber has a tool. They have a website for $350. The businesses get to utilize a website. They get their events posted on as well, shared on their businesses. I don't have that tool, so together we make a great team. My office also is out of the museum, and in that museum I have my office space, which allows us to do our work and to collaborate ideas. We have the proper tools, and it just makes sure that we are meeting the marketing needs, and it helps us to be successful by having those tools with us. And then the museum also has a big center that the Chamber and Tourism, are planning on having round tables with our businesses so that we hear what they need. If they don't know what Chamber offers, the Chamber has an opportunity to mention it to them. If I don't know what they need, they have an opportunity to tell us so that we can create that on our side of the tourism. All of this is also, just to know, I know we've been talking about budget. And so my office, my payroll, my employee, we are all paid out of tourism budget, hot tax dollars. And so that is separate from your budget that you guys are right now talking about as well too. The next page, if you don't mind. So the other vision was businesses. Well, we have very excited business owners right now. And like I said, they're asking us now to put the QR code. They know who we are. They see us in there. They are literally telling us, thank you so much for what you are doing. I have an email here that has about 4, pasted it all on one, 4 of them that have said, thank you for what you're doing. We've not seen it. We're so excited, and we're glad that you're here. Keep doing what you're doing, and we're here to support you. And thank you for supporting us. That is a lot. And that brings so much success and so much joy and excitement to our community, and we are very glad to be a part of it. We're also looking at creating tours and bringing conferences, so we have people on weekdays and also along with the weekends. And just so that you know, I mean, our businesses, when they're excited and they're talking to their customers, that is right there, your visitor center. Those are your faces. And what that also does for them too is it connects those visitors that they're so excited to come back. It's also a repeat for our businesses, which is a great marketing tool for them too. So my little sign here, come, sit, and stay. That's what we're asking people to do, right? Heads in beds, come and stay a while, get off the highway. We're all busy. Our young people don't understand, and I'm going to be aging myself, so please don't tell nobody my age, although it'll be given away. We experienced life when we all got to sit at home and eat dinner at the table with our families. Now families are running in full circle, right? They're all looking for, when you look at destinations, they're looking for that main street to get off, enjoy, and relax. Salado has it. So that's where we look at with our Saturdays. That's where we're looking at with our QR code. Our QR code, our website, all of that is connected along with our social media, just only enhancing coming to Salado. The next slide. The other thing we've kind of looked at, and we've been just looking at pricing, is our kiosk. And I didn't want anybody to freak out when they saw technology, because we all know technology can be really ugly. So I thought this was a really pretty picture to show that you can have a really nice kiosk and it would fit Salado and the needs of Salado. So we're looking at it and maybe possibly putting several along Main Street, you know, hitting different points. Again, that is what we are looking at doing. We have not officially decided on that. Manny and I, you know, he's my boss, and we'll look at that together. So then you hit the next page, please. experience. We have a famous person in here, right? So 85% of travelers, they share their experience on social media, right? When they share, if you know anything about social media, when somebody shares your page on social media, it only grows and grows and grows. One bad experience can bring you, connect to a lot of people. A great experience can connect to so much more. And that's what we're trying to do here, is create the vision for Salado. We've already started on it, and we're very excited about the positivity that it's brought so far. So I wanted to say all of this. Next page, if you don't mind. So I wanted to let you know, tourism is much more than just marketing and having fun, although that's the greatest part in all of it, right? But I work with you guys. You guys are my team. And when you're looking at residential things and what you want to bring to Salado, I come to your meetings too, so I can hear, so that whatever I can help on the tourism side, I can help bring that vision to life as well too. And then we all do work together on that. So my team and I are here for you guys. We're here for the community. We're trying to create the vision for Salado, tell the story, bring a fun atmosphere, and have fun while doing it. The other thing I'd like to say is that social media is also, we do want to keep it positive. We've seen a lot of negativity, a lot of these things that we've been doing. Our trials are going to make us grow. You guys are a new team. You're doing a phenomenal job. We've got a whole new team all together. I can name a bunch of y'all. And it's been great to see. The energy is there. Let's keep it going. Let's let this trial help us grow, bring joy, and bring more tourists to our town. And I just want to say thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Whitson. Do y'all have currently, you have a YouTube channel now that's currently up and running?
The only YouTube channel is the one that you guys have currently right now.
Are we going to use that one?
I'm going to ask Manny how I need to make sure, get with Manny and see how that works.
Okay.
Legally wise.
Plan moving forward is a more, I love the positivity approach. We need more of that. My concern is, you go on to any of the 1,573 Salado Facebook pages, and anyone that you hear, there's always some sort of negative undertone about something, even as simple as asking a question.
Yeah, and that brings here, and I just want the businesses, is when they feel the excitement, that energy comes to the visitors too.
Right, and I appreciate that, and for the business owners that are here, just, I love that our community tends to support business owners supporting business owners and that kind of thing, and if they're asking for us to put these in their establishments, then why not do it? And also to help them build each other. And I've been into different businesses and have heard shop owners refer their customers to other shops in town.
Yes, and that's been nice to see.
Yeah, and been to restaurants and heard them refer them to other restaurants.
And I also have some of those people in the audience. If you ever wanted to ask them, so you're not hearing from me as well too, you can hear their own experience. They were willing to come. So.
Anyway, I appreciate that. That was a good presentation. Alderman Graham, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
You're welcome.
Alderman Hurst. Alderman McDonald.
Well done. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Woodson. All right, item 5, public hearing. A public hearing on the conditional use permit application number CUP-24-003 to allow mixed beverage sales on property zoned historic district overlay located at 2 Peddlers Alley, Salado, Texas. The proposed name of the business is Bourbon Speaks. The applicants are Troy and Andrew Parsons. Ms. Pence.
Good evening, Mayor and Alderman.
Good
Thank
evening.
you. The applicant, Troy and Andra Parsons, are seeking the conditional use permit, which we call the CUP, to allow mixed beverage sales on the property zoned historic district and located at 2 Peddlers Alley in Salado, Bill County, Texas. The subject property is zoned historic district and is located within the boundaries of the historic district overlay. As such, a CUP is required to serve mixed beverages on the property according to ordinance number 2023-08 and the land use chart. Public notice of the conditional use permit request was published in the Salado Village Voice on August the 8th, and no comments have been received to the village regarding this notice. Mr. and Mrs. Parsons? are here this evening to present their project, Bourbon Speaks, and answer any questions that you may have.
They're going to speak on this now or after, or we're going to do this on the next discussion and action on this? Have them speak on
Yeah, you
this?
should get on the next one on the agenda item. This is more of a public hearing.
All right, perfect. All right, thank you, Ms. Pence. The time is 7 o'clock, and I'm going to open the public hearing, and we'll allow public comments at this time. None? All right. The time is still 7 o'clock, and I'm going to close public comments. All right, thank you. Moving on. Item 6A, discuss and consider possible action on the conditional use permit application number CUP-24-003, an application for mixed beverage sales at 2 Peddlers Alley. Is that you again, Ms. Pence?
It is.
Let's
Thank you,
do it.
Mayor. Okay, the applicant again presented their project Bourbon Speaks to the Planning and Zoning Commission on Tuesday, August 27th. Commissioners voted 2-1 in favor, with 1 commissioner abstaining. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions, and Mr. and Mrs. Carson are here to represent Bourbon Speaks to you this evening.
Okay, thank you. You want to hear from them? Okay. Troy and Andrea? It's yours. Let's do it.
I don't know that I'll need a microphone. It's a pretty loud voice. So sorry if I sound like I'm screaming. Okay. Well, good evening, Mayor and Alderman. My name is Andrea. My husband, Troy. And we are here to present our business plan for Bourbon Speaks to all of you. And it is located at 2 Peddlers Alley here in Salado. Troy and I live here in Salado about 5 years now. We're blessed to call it home. And we love that we were able to find a small town community with really at-home feel. Growing up in Cedar Park, back when it was a small town, probably aging myself there, was a lot like here. So we're glad that our daughter Reese is going to be able to grow up in a place where the community does get together, they work together, the festivals are amazing, the events are amazing, and just kind of reminds me of back when Cedar Park did like the supper festivals, and it was a small town, everybody got together. So we're happy to be here, and the people are great, and the businesses they're small, family-owned treasures. The families run and operate the businesses themselves, and to me, it makes the experience all the more special, knowing that and also feeling that vibe. We knew the day we moved here, and the more we got immersed into the community, that one day we wanted to be part of what Salado has to offer. We just had to find our niche. So, to us, Bourbon Speaks should be a place where everyone feels welcome. A place that's pet and family friendly, and somewhere you can go where the drinks are good and the atmosphere is quiet and calming, a true relaxation. The purpose of the business is to bring all of the community members together. It's a place where men and women of all ages can get together and hang out. Really chill, relax after a hard day of work in a calm, quiet space where they can escape the wife and children, or vice versa. A place to hang out with friends. We want to welcome a cozy environment with dark but a vibrant design. We're holding true to the originality of the building and creating our rustic barn / industrial cabin / industry building into what is already there, along with adding a classy, vibrant, speakeasy type of feel. Bourbon is a sipping and neat kind of drink that creates conversation and brings out similarities in all different kinds of people. We want our lounge to be a place where there's fun to be had, but in a laid-back, quiet, calm type of atmosphere. Of course, whiskey is the focus from the bottom to the top shelf, but we know that that's not the only spirit that pulls on the hearts and strings of others. We know that not only is bourbon a sipping, neat kind of drink, but that Scotch, whiskey, well, really the whole whiskey family, and even tequila can be a sipping at neat kind of drink. So we intend to offer a variety of options along with craft cocktails, beer, and wine. But don't forget the ladies, because one day my aspiration is to have brunch in a place like this. So there will be mimosas, of course. But for years we've been talking about this business, and when I found the place for us, I knew it was in the historical district. So the first thing I did before even creating the business plan was figure out how to incorporate like real Salado, old town Salado, into what we're trying to achieve. So we've talked to the historical society. We've gone to the library. We've done research. We've gone through the archives. We've even started speaking with some of the Sanford family from Guest and Sanford, one of the old families, and we've created a storyboard, I guess you could call it, of photos, a timeline of out the area where Two Peddlers Alley is at. And the goal is to incorporate all of that into the design of our lounge so that when you do come in, you see the history of Salado. You see the original building in its original form. We've just added a little glass. So you're going to find a mixture of metals, furs, leathers, textiles, and lighting. We want the mood to feel relaxing with dim, but a vibrancy filling the room with a welcome conversation. We will use the furs and the leathers and the mixtures of textiles to help tie in the history of the surrounding area around us where the grain mill and the cotton gin used to be. The metals will create a streamline of industry just like the building reflects. There'll be a mid-modern century feel though, kind of ties in with the lounge and the speakeasy of it all. But aside from just the drinks, we do want to offer ample actual lounging space. So we won't have a lot of bar tops. We won't have a lot of tables. The idea is to give you a worn-in, comfortable leather armchair to sink into, right? A couch to have a conversation in. So more actual lounging than sitting at a table drinking. We also do, because we're not going to sell food, or at least, make or prepare food. We've already started talking to the surrounding businesses that offer food to try to hold their menus so that if you want to order something to go, pick it up, bring it back, totally cool. Some of our local bakers and chefs, we've talked to them about creating menus with pre-packaged, pre-prepared foods that we can sell. We do want to be a part of the community. We want the community to be part of us. So we do plan to keep that relationship going now and in the future. That's all I got.
Thank you. Alderman Graham, do you have any questions for them?
Thanks for my question.
Yeah.
Mandy, just real quick, do any of our alcohol-related ordinances have a food element tied to them, where an establishment must have food to have an alcohol permit, or any state or local statutes that require that?
I'm not familiar with the state statute under the CADC, but I am familiar with the city ordinance that was referenced in 2023 or 2022 very specifically. But as you might recall, we just amended it here in 2024. The provision that requires food was already in existence going back to 2018 or so. So if you serve alcohol between 10 a.m. and noon on Sunday, then you're required to have food. And it includes mixed beverages and also the beer and wine. That's the only provision for food in our ordinances. So if there is a conflict in state law with the city ordinance, and state law supersedes ours. Okay, so they both work together. So, but if they may, and I've heard this from the mayor and more specifically one or two businesses, that they said that TABC required it. Well, is that a clerk that's taking the application telling you, or is that in the statute? I said, because I don't know what TABC is talking about. And if they have it, the applicant has to follow TABC's rules and our city ordinances. Okay.
And are y'all to the point where you're looking at hours of operation and weeks and days and things of that nature yet, or?
So we haven't, yeah, we haven't, I mean, we know the days and we know around the time frames of which we would like to be opened. So we're just going to do Wednesday through Sunday. Right now it's looking like Wednesdays and Thursdays will probably be either from 2 to 9 or 3 to 9. Fridays would be same thing, 2 or 3 and going until 10. Saturdays, if at some point we can figure out a breakfast situation, we'll probably do 10 to 10, but right now it may be, you know, either 11 or 12 to 10. And then Sundays we'll shut down with Salado, so from noon to 5.
And would this cup stay with this location?
It would only stay with this applicant.
With this
So-
applicant? Okay.
So say that they changed the business name, but it's still the same business or same
Right.
ownership that stays with them. Should they sell out, it doesn't transfer.
That's all I have.
Alderman McDonald.
Thank you for your presentation.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell.
Manny, the provision of 2023-08, is that tied directly to the historic district overlay, or is that?
Yeah, the historic district overlay actually had mixed drinks as a conditional use permit. I see one of the commissioners in the audience. He actually brought up the prior ordinance, the historic district. It was not in there, but it certainly wasn't the one that was adopted in 2023, the most current historic district overlay that allow for a conditional use permit.
So if they're following state law and the only provision is operating for 2 hours for alcohol, why do we have a provision in there for a cup at all?
That was the way that the ordinance was adopted. It doesn't make any sense.
So I'd like for us to see, I mean, because as Mr. Fleischer's pointed out on numerous occasions, it doesn't make sense that a business has to come and basically pitch an idea for us to approve. And if they're following state guidelines, they apply for their alcohol beverage license and they're maintaining a business. I hate it that a historic district or a historic overlay is what's forcing them to have to come do it. And that's not just their business. I was disappointed when I first read it. I thought it said bourbon steaks. And I was really getting excited.
We could bring
but
our
then I
grill if
read
you
it
want.
closer. But I just would like for us to start looking at that and see how we might mold that a little bit, keep the spirit of what was trying to be done, but not asking businesses to come in and have to basically pitch their idea and ask for approval and wait on us to go, yeah or no. I just don't think that's fair to do.
Okay, well, let me, the flaw in both ordinances, both the original and the one now, but let's take the one in 2023. If you were going to open a straight bar, it's not allowed. Okay, and what I was informed by various former elected officials and some of the planning and zoning was that if we just did one at 21 Main Street, what's it called, 1859? And this is what I was told. Well, we're approving it because there was already one there before. Well, that's not in your ordinance either. We did streamline the process because of Mr. Fleischer's comment. Most of you were in agreement, and I believe in streamlining these, Mayor Pro Tem, I do.
Yeah.
So I think that if you're going to let the market drive it and you're going to allow people to at least have an opportunity and let them operate their businesses, it's a little restrictive. We're trying to get away from what we think we want, because I'm not finding where if they were applying now as a bar, and the mayor and I went back and forth, I said, it's not in here until he found mixed drinks. I was looking for bars. I was looking for some other establishments. It was in such an odd location that I had difficulty, and then we went through it. So in other words, we streamlined it, And Mayor Pro Tem, if I get the consent of the rest of your colleagues, basically says, yes, let's look at this. I'll start putting something together because I do believe that you should have a more open market on these types of activities. Let the market drive the businesses.
And that still allows us, in keeping with the spirit of what the historic district overlay was intended to do, right?
It does, yes, sir. And if you want more,
I don't want that. I mean, I'm all for free market, but I don't want that to get lost.
yeah, the size of the establishments, a lot of what's already there now. Part of the comments at the at the Planning and Zoning Commission by some of the commissioners was it's going to take up parking away from other areas. Well, Two Peddlers Alley was a very good point made by the Parsons that it's not on Main Street. You can't see it. You're going actually there. It's kind of a unique side. And plus, we forget the downtown area already has limited parking. That's kind of what attracts people. You see a lot of activity, it brings more people. So, but if it was a new establishment, if they were building a brand new building on that site, they would have to comply with the parking regulations that's in our subdivision ordinance. That is not the case. So therefore, that is a non-issue. So I look forward to receiving your comments. That'll give me some direction as to how I amend this ordinance.
I can give you one right now. We want to move forward on getting those ordinances amended.
I can read the tea leaves, Smith.
Thank you. All right. Thank you all. Appreciate
Thank
it.
y'all very much.
I'll open it up to public comments on this agenda item, even though we just left the public hearing. Go ahead. You're next, man.
I'm Jeffrey McClure, live at 123 Rock Creek Drive, and I tremendously support what they're trying to do. I think it's a very valuable use of that building because otherwise it won't create. Two of the commissioners objected to it. One of them, I think, because it was alcohol, and the other one because of parking. And the reason I don't think there's going to be any more of a parking problem is you put a dress shop in it. And Mayor Pro Tem Bell, I can tell you why that C got in there, because there were people on the commission at the time and in the committee, in the group that wrote the ordinance, who frankly stated that we have too much alcohol served in the village. And they were concerned about parking. For example, right on Main Street, another place where people might be drinking alcohol and then backing out into the crowd. And there was a degree of caution that came up from that. I personally like the old ordinance where it was just a P, it was just permitted. But, and I agree with you that I think streamlining it and let the market do it will get the job done. There was no, it's horrendous to try to figure out what percentage of businesses could serve alcohol and then put an arbitrary block on it at that point. And I was also concerned on the commission that we get too much alcohol. It's just a general concern, and that's something you might want to consider in the future when commissioners are appointed. That if people come into the commission with an attitude towards alcohol right from the beginning, it prejudices their position on something like this when it comes along. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McClure. And I'll add to that, the role of the Board of Aldermen and the Planning and Zoning Committee, there should be objectivity with the members of that board. And you cannot let your own personal likes and dislikes overshadow what's for the greater good of the community. And, just because somebody doesn't personally like alcohol and they don't like shoe stores or whatever, color, whatever shoes they're going to carry, but it doesn't give you the right to shut them down just because you don't particularly care yourself for what they're selling. So I think these ordinances need to be looked at. We need to get those amended. Mr. Allard?
Dale Allard, thank you for letting me speak. In regards to the parking lot, I am a representative of the group that owns the sometimes hotly contested parking lot, the restaurant, and that other area along Royal. Me being a representative, also owning Salado Glassworks and the property that they're going to be moving into, they have access to that parking lot. So There may not be very much on Peddler's Alley, but they do have access to the larger parking lot. I guess that would be north of my shop. So if parking was an issue, there's plenty of it there. That's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? No? Okay.
Any more questions from the board?
Okay. All right. I will, Mr. De La Rosa, do you have anything you want to add to this?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Okay. I will open the floor for a motion.
Mayor, I motion to approve 6A as written.
Motion made by Alderman McDonald to approve 6A as written. Do I have a second? Second. Motion seconded by Alderman Hurst. Any further discussion? Question called by Mayor Pro Tem Bell. All in favor of approving item A on the conditional use permit application number CUP 24-003. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed say no. That passes, Ms. Bean, 4-0. Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Parks. B, discuss and consider possible action on approving an interlocal cooperation agreement between Bell County Emergency Services District Number 1 and the Village of Salado. Mr. De La Rosa.
Mayor and Alderman, before you have an interlocal agreement that Chief Jim France with Bell County ESD Number 1 and I have discussed. When I first came on board with the city, with the village back in January, it wasn't, but maybe 2-3 months later when I first met Chief France. Having been a former firefighter, former fire chief for municipality in Houston area when I first joined many decades ago, I have a certain appreciation for fire service. And again, I've been in city government for many decades now. So this interlocal agreement meets the legal requirements. There is a section in there about payments. In other words, that should we have to compensate them for any reasons we can. I mean, there's nothing for free. They are a taxing entity, and the idea wasn't that they want to collect from us. The idea is, I would like for us to be able to have a fire marshal that comes from another governmental entity, not somebody we contract either individually or through Bureau Veritas for fire inspection services or fire or plan reviews. I would like to utilize the services of their on-staff fire marshal at Bell County ESD Number 1. So this interlocal agreement was prepared by a city attorney. It was reviewed by, I believe, by the ESD, but I did meet with the chief and the board president to go over any concerns. I think one concern was the burn permit, but we'll handle that individually. Our burn permitting process, I'm not so sure it's compliant with TCEQ's requirements, and we'll address that separately. But when it comes to having a fire marshal, fire services, the ESD was created. It has authority to be in the village to put out your fires, but it does not have authority to conduct the fire prevention services like a fire marshal, plan review. What we're doing is we're opening the door. We believe, and I believe, that having that relationship, that partnership, will benefit both the ESD and the village and our citizens. Any questions for me? If not, Chief Francis in the room.
I do have a question. I almost have to bring this up. For you that have been around a hot minute, fire hydrants. Is there a requirement by the village to certify or inspect fire hydrants within the city limits? And if so, would this interlocal agreement and the ESD be responsible for doing that, or no?
The fire hydrants are the property of a water supply company. So they don't belong to the city. They are the ownership of the Salado Water Supply Corporation. The Water Supply Corporation has a different set of state statutes that they follow. But here's the issue. When you're in the village, you adopted the International Fire Code. Bell County ESD number 1 recently adopted the 2021 International Code Council International Fire Code. So the construction that we have, for example, at the new stadium, at the new high school field house, it must meet the International Fire Code. If it can't meet it because the pressure isn't at a fire hydrant, then the fire code gives you alternatives, having pressurized tanks. Okay? I've read in your board minute meetings that you've actually granted variances to the pressure requirements somewhere along the way. That means when you have a black fire hydrant, you're not meeting the 20 pounds per square inch. Technically, when you hit below 20 psi, you're supposed to have a boil water notice issue, right? Look, I know that we all come from agricultural backgrounds and we become, a farming type community or ranching community and become a city somewhere along the way. It's going to take a while to get some of these, but when we look at these fire code requirements, especially where there's schools, daycares, hospitals, clinics, it's important, and that's why there's these requirements. It's not that the code doesn't require that you have a hydrant that meets that requirement. It's that you have to have water on site that meets those pressure requirements. Again, I've been out of that wheelhouse for a little while. The codes haven't changed much in the last 25 years that I've been in the fire service, and I certainly would be encouraged to have that conversation also with Chief France. But I know enough about our building codes, all of them, to tell you exactly when folks are compliant or not compliant.
So that's the Salado Water Supply Corporation responsibility to certify those flows on the fire hydrant?
It is their system. They're not required to meet those pressures. Okay, so if they don't, and you have construction, then your codes give alternatives, is what I'm saying.
Would that mean that the village in turn is responsible for validating those flows, those pressures, if it was necessary for a particular building or infrastructure?
It does, Alderman. For example, if something hits my desk and I don't see the flow reports, I will not issue a building permit on it until it's been addressed or it gets appealed to you all to basically provide a variance, a waiver from that requirement.
Who would be responsible for providing that flow report and verifying that?
The builder, the developer, or the owner.
Okay. All right. So circling all the way back around to the fire department, the ESD wouldn't necessarily have a responsibility as far as the fire hydrants were concerned, other than just hooking up to them if there were a fire. Is that correct?
The fire marshal may have some authority. He can red tag, but he doesn't issue permits, and they don't issue the certificates of occupancy or the building permit. They'll stay within their wheelhouse, which is the International Fire Code, and things can be appealed still to the Board of Aldermen.
It was a real, and Rodney can tell you, it was a real point of contention a few years ago when we were trying to figure out whose role was what with respect to certifying fire hydrants and making sure that they had the right flows and things of that nature. So if what you're telling me is that this proposed ESD is not affected by the conversation we just had and what responsibilities they would have, then I don't have any other.
The village is not waiving its authority. This is a partnership. They have certain authority within the ESD already, but they're in the city by invitation to an interlocal agreement that they either agree to or not agree to be a part of. So, but the city always maintains its authority.
I'll make another question. Thanks.
I just wanted to add
Alderman McDonald.
No, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell.
So, Manny, in reading this, first, indemnification bothered me a little bit, but I see that they're doing that on both sides. What's the cost? I don't see that per se listed in this agreement.
There is no cost.
Well,
There's a section that provides, should there be, for example, there will be times that they provide plan reviews, and they will charge for those plan reviews according to their standards.
But they won't charge us. It'll be
We're not getting charged. Very well. It's unless we ask for something very specifically, and that section says that both parties have to agree.
are we going to have a rate sheet for that in case there is a charge, or how's that
Yeah.
gonna be determined, or how is it?
Well, the provision was written in there, and the city attorney and I had that very conversation. Should there be something that comes up, we don't want to have to go back to amend the interlocal agreement. That's why it's written that both parties, and if we do, it would be an amendment through an agreement, and we would agree to that rate structure.
Okay. What's the term? Because the term's blank.
We left purposely blank. I mean, it should be a few years. I mean, I'm generally good with about 3 years. We didn't discuss it. I'm sure the chief would have some number, but we left that open. Look, we're not sharing resources or assets. I mean, basically, if the chief says a year from now, this is a horrible relationship, we both agree to, that we're not going to be in this any longer. And it's got a 90-day out or something like that. It's a short period.
And it's by either side.
Yes, sir.
90-day notice on either side,
Yes,
like
sir.
that. And then is there a provision for renewals, or does it after 3 years?
No, if you set the term periods, I mean, how long you want this to, is that the question?
Well, I'm in agreements I have with different people that we'll have a term, but we may have an auto renewal year after the full term is finished. And you remain and keep your same house, but you're allowed to continue to auto renew it until you get to the point that you want to say it's done.
Look, I'm not a big fan of 5 years. It's too long. I like 3 to 4 years, and I don't like auto renewals. I think that you should evaluate it every so often to make sure that it is exactly the expectation that you want from this. So if you're asking me, I would recommend not less than 3 years and not more than 4.
Okay.
And Chief, any period, time period that you like, preference?
Good. I think the 90 days. I think that's the biggest thing is that the village isn't happy you can get back up the process. I don't see
I don't, Manny, I don't see that any scenario in which that's the case. Chief Ron's and his crew over there at Bell County SB1 and Plato Fire Department, they carry themselves with the utmost professionalism. They know what they do. I've seen their training. I know what they're trained to do. They're an ALS department, and I would put his crew up against any paid fire department in this area any day. I've seen these guys in action, and they know what they're doing. And Chief Ron is a great leader. I know that we've had a strained relationship in the past between the village and the fire department, and I think this is going to help mend that particular bridge, and I'm looking forward to it moving forward. So we appreciate you, Chief.
Well, our main motivation is still history to do this. We had consultants come in and help us with the strategic plan. One of the first things they identified was our need to have a fire code that we could stay on top of the growth within the ESD. And by doing the fire code, we employ a fire marshal to do that. Then we identified that out of the 115 square miles we covered, later it was 3-4 square miles of that. It would just make sense for us to use our resources to perform the inspections, plan reviews, and everything to keep the village from having to do that. And then it also maintains the consistency with that fire code. As in the past, talk about variances. When it comes to fire codes, we don't give variances. We give what they call equivalency. So fire code sets certain standards and certain instruments to protect the public from fire, and we'll use a sprinkler system for example. If this building here required a sprinkler system that you didn't want to or couldn't afford a sprinkler system, or there was something to prevent you from doing that, there are what we call equivalencies that you could put in place that would render the building just as safe as if it was did have some variance to be. No, you don't have to have that. We're not doing that. We don't do that. It's going to be a set thing. The other thing that I think will benefit, the ESD has also adopted, I'm going to call it really a subdivision ordinance, but we laid out street widths for any subdivisions coming in, and those widths exceed what the county level requires. Same as
Alderman Brandon talked about fire hydrants. We do go and check fire hydrant spacing. Just like in the high school, they presented their plan. We did plan review, and we identified, I think, 4, 5, or 6 fire hydrants that were needed in the parking lot area. So that's where we can get in, get ahead of things. Whereas if you're calling Bureau Veritas, and I'm not trying to downplay them, but if you're having someone come out who's not familiar with the village, you may not get that same product. With us, by us not having a fire marshal prior to, he came on in May, we have one subdivision that's going in on the east side of our district. They put the subdivision in and there's 0 fire in the subdivision, and I think the street width is only 20 feet. And if there's other vehicles, we won't be able to get a fire in that. So we've made our street width wider, and we'll be able to dictate how many fire hydrants and just maintain the overall safety for that area.
Is there a interlocal agreement with the water company, or
We don't yet.
is that something that we might see in the future here soon?
I can't say that because I'm not sure what authorities we have as far as one of our missions or goals is to reduce the what they call the ISO rating for the village and for the outlying areas. Part of that has to do with the water system, and part of that water system is testing and checking and flowing hydrants. I haven't even broached that with Salado Water Supply as far as do we have authority to get on their system and check hydrants, test hydrants, or anything like that. I haven't approached that conversation yet because I haven't received enough information on what authority he has to do that. He may say, well, absolutely not. And if we do have some authority, I could show him that statute. We just haven't got to that yet.
Other than any on our side, could we dictate to the water company that inside the village they maintain certain pressurized hydrants?
Yes, hypothetically, yes.
Hypothetically.
Yeah, well, you would have to enter into agreements and things like that. So they operate under the Texas Water Code. The Salado Water Supply Corporation is a public water system, but it is a privately owned system. So they do comply with TCEQ and they meet certain minimal standards. That doesn't mean that they meet the city's international fire code standards. Okay, so there's some difference there. I just came from the city. We had a paid fire department. They were civil service and had me confer, which means they were full-time municipal firefighters. We had water supply corporations around us. You cannot touch that system without their approval. We already looked into it. The reason being is we had some other water supply corporations. It's an agriculture type community peripherally around the city. So therefore, when you run their system, they're using up valuable water. So they say if you touch it, we're billing you. Or we'll sue you. Okay? So it is. So we've been through there before. The state legislature, the water supply corporations have a very strong lobbying, and a good portion of this state is still very agriculture. So it means they protect that. I mean, they are very much needed, but when cities start to urbanize and grow, there's different demands. So it's just something we're going to have to work through.
Sure. So, first and foremost, I echo what the mayor said. This is great. I'm glad we're locking arms on this. This is good thing for support it. But when it comes to the flow piece, I remember the last time we had this discussion again, Rodney, what was it, maybe 3 years ago? The flows, it was conveyed to us that you could get the proper flows in one location, but to do that, it's going to be a rob Peter to pay Paul. And so, yes, you could service that one fire at that one location, but if you had multiple fires going on within the same footprint, it was problematic at best. So I raised that up just to say, probably something we want to start looking in. It's a separate issue than this, but worth considering at least in terms of how we want to address that.
So hypothetically, if someone wanted to come in and build a four-story hotel right here on the access instrument, and we detect a fire flow. If fire flow is not enough for that occupancy, then we don't agree with that plan. They have to use that fire flow in order to inspect that building.
Now, there have been some comments made about the sanctuary, specifically Water's Edge and the width of those driveways. Those driveways and those widths are compliant with the development agreement that was signed in 2015 or 2019. Okay? I doubt it had reviewed by any fire inspectors or by the fire departments. They are privately owned driveways. But a fire doesn't know the difference. Okay? So contractually, it is private property, private driveways. They're designed according to a development agreement. When I was at Liberty Hill, Jonestown, and Kyle, I had a good working relationship with the ESD. They were part of our plan reviews. Plans came in, we sent them over, they provided comments, we enforced those comments. So I've already have experience working with ESDs in Central Texas.
And this is, I'm glad to have the possibility of bringing the fire department back to the table and making these decisions. I know that's been kind of lacking for years, and really just outright disrespectful. Some of the, kind of stay in your lane type comments with previous situations. And I'm glad that we're moving forward with that and trying to reestablish that relationship. And to the chief's point, you get Bureau Veritas that comes from Austin or wherever they're coming from. They come here and do their inspections, and they do their plan reviews, and they leave. They're not here to fight a fire in that development. His team is, so they've already seen it. They already have eyes on the plans, and they have already kind of a working knowledge of what to expect. So I'm glad for this.
The chief and his firefighters know this community better than anyone else.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it. Any public comments on this?
Jim Boynton, 3565 FM 2843 Salado. Just like with the new regime we have in place here at the city, we are fortunate to have a guy that we have in charge of our ESD. He's forgot more about that than some of these people ever knew. He has. He's very knowledgeable. He's trying to keep you guys out of a jam, and I think y'all know that. We've got problems. The one thing I'd point out to you, these decisions made before will affect our insurance rates later on, because they're going to look and say, wait a minute, we've got a hotel with that's been given away the variance over sprinklers. We've got apartments being put in that fire trucks, you can't fit 2 fire trucks down their road. Now, I know they own them. We signed that agreement, but that's the truth of the matter. We don't have a ladder truck in place today. If they have a fire at those apartments, they're going to call in other departments to help them, because we've created this mess for them. The respect that they deserve is much more than they've been given by the regime before this. And if we don't start respecting these guys and trying to support them, they can go elsewhere. There is a huge demand for guys that understand how to run ESDs appropriately. This guy does. We better work with him, because he's not about himself. He's about doing the best for the community.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Any more questions from the board? Nope. I will open the floor for a motion, please.
I'll make a motion that we.
Go ahead.
Don't forget to set the time period. 3 years or 4 years?
3 years. I'll make a motion that we enter into an interlocal agreement with the ESD number 1, Chief Francis Crew, and for a period of 3 years, and then, of course, review is discussed.
Motion made by Alderman Graham to approve as written and added the 3-year contract terms.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman McDonald. Any further discussion? Question called by Alderman Hurst. All in favor of entering into the interlocal cooperation agreement between Bell County ESD number 1 and the Village of Salado say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed say no. This being that passes 4-0. Thank you, Chief Franz. Item C, discuss and consider possible action on independent contractor agreement between the Village of Salado and Media to Social LLC. Ms. Whitson, say again.
This is a contract asking to switch our website over to a local company here in Belton. John and Ann Vandergrift are with Media to Social, and they are going to provide the same services that we currently get through our visit widget. They're at the same cost monthly. So there is a $2,000 upfront. It's not upfront fee, but it's a fee to get us started with it. He's willing to add just $100 each month to our bill until it's paid off, and then get us back to our normal monthly pay. The reason I've asked to make this change is because I do know John and Ann very well. They've been very successful with their website and their businesses. They grew up here. They know our market, and where we are currently with Visit Widget, we have had a lot of issues asking to keep up with our QR code and have the local service that we aren't getting there because they're in Austin and they've already got a whole group of people. So I sat and spoke with John, and he was willing to meet with us, or do it for us, and then also help us create the image that he already knows about our town and the surrounding areas. And he does them for the local businesses as well, too. So we'd be excited to have Salado.
All hot tax funded, right?
Yes.
That's all I have.
Alderman Hurst. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell. All right, thank you, Ms. Whitson. I will open this up to public comments. None? Okay. Mr. Del Rosa, do you have anything to add?
No, sir. I'm good.
right.
Thank you.
If there's no further questions, I will open the floor for a motion, please.
Make a motion that we take on independent contractor agreement between the Village of Salado and Media 2 Social LLC.
Motion made by Alderman Graham to approve as written.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Hurst. Any further discussion?
Question.
Question called by Alderman McDonald. All in favor of entering into agreement between the Village of Salado and Media 2 Social LLC, say yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. This being that's 4-0. Item D, discuss and consider action on acceptance agreement between the Village of Salado and Celts International LLC. Mr. Del Rosa.
The Salado Center, Phase 1, is the area with the QT and the adjacent properties along FM 2484. Salado Center Phase 2 is the northern side of that property. A portion of the roadway, Salado Center, off the I-35 service road, heads westwardly, then turns southward toward FM 2484 on the western side of the QT. Part of that road has been built already. A portion of that road on the northern end is a triangular portion of that is within the city of Belton's city limits. You might recall that we've had some discussions about the developer having a land swap agreement with the city, between the city of Belton and the Village of Salado, because he would like to have that roadway and everything to the south of Salado Center from the north right-of-way property lines southward be within the village. We met with the village, with the city of Belton back in May. We've had not much traction, and the developer has got some inquiries about some of the properties that are kind of holding us up. One specifically is the Starbucks. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating for Starbucks or any one business, but I am advocating that developers shouldn't be held up because government can't decide. This acceptance agreement, because of my meetings with the city of Belton, along with the developers and lawyers and engineers for all parties, both cities and the developers, is that Belton does not want to be responsible for that roadway since that roadway was built without any permits or without their oversight. So, but they are interested in us releasing an area, a triangular piece, to the east of that on the sometimes they're going to have to decide what they're going to do. But to help our developments move along, we looked at the test reports of these roadways. These roadways, just like Chief indicated, do not meet our standard 3,600 psi for concrete because those are our specifications for roadways. They're between 3,000 and 3,400. So I looked at the sections that QT built. They built their driveway along I-35 along the north side of the property, and they actually built a section of Salado Center Drive on the west side of the QT in 2044. Kelts International built built Kelts Drive from Salado Center westward to Large Trail, that intersection. So at least that roadway where it intersects both those roadways. Same contractor, same test reports. You worked out a annexation agreement with QT, and part of that plat process, and you annexed them. So our engineer said, well, it doesn't meet our specifications. Well, neither does phase one. So the remedy is that if we annex those there, once they're conveyed over, they're conveyed to us by plat, but we've not accepted them, is that, and more specifically phase two, is that if we're willing to take the road because we know what it is, that shouldn't keep them from platting the roadway as a roadway dedicated to the Village of Salado. Even if it's in Belton city limits, we don't pay taxes. That will help move that platting process along. And then, at the cost of the developer, I sent you an email today, a few things that he's got to finish that he contractually has to meet. This acceptance agreement also provides for a warranty on it. Look, you're not going to have 100% failure even at a 3,000 PSI roadway, but we can certainly mitigate that by having our city attorney prepare an ordinance that is paid for by the developer through the escrow agreement we just approved at the last meeting that says no overnight parking or no parking at all on those roadways, no commercial vehicles unless you're making delivery. So we'll put a rating of the weight limit on that roadway from Salado Center, from I-35 to FM24, and the Kelts Drive from Salado Center to Large Trail. That'll at least give you some protection from having vehicles, because right now there's a lot of large commercial 18-wheelers parking on Kelts Drive and Salado Center, even though our agreement with QT is not to have any overnight parking. Right? So we need to enforce that once we have those roadways under, not only within the city limits, but also under our ordinances and our regulations. So this is a way for, I'm offering the developer, it's my recommendation to you that we accept the infrastructure because it's not any different than phase one. It was not in the city at one time. It came in as part of an agreement. So we just need to go ahead and move on with what it is, because there would be more harm caused by having them tear out the roadway, or you're just going to leave them out in the ETJ and never bring them in and never benefit from potential sales tax or property taxes. So I think in the long run, it serves our best interest.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Graham?
No question.
Alderman Hurst?
No question.
Mr. McDonald?
Mr. De La Rosa, when you talk about the basically the developer warranting the, with any other language, the road itself based on the PSI, what is the kind of time are we looking at? In other words, 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, generally the life of the road.
Yeah, what I asked was, in accordance with our subdivision ordinance, a 2-year warranty bond.
2 years.
Even if he stayed in Bell County now has a 2-year warranty bond. So it's equal. So the weight limit would be not based on him, but be on vehicles that we allow to traverse on that roadway.
Thank you, Mr. Dela Rosa.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell. All right, I'll open it up to public comments. None? I'm sure are quiet tonight. All right, if there are no further questions, I will open the floor for a motion.
I move to accept the agreement between Village of Salado and the Celtic International LLC.
Motion made by Alderman Hurst to enter into agreement between Village of Salado and Celtic International LLC. Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Bell. Any further discussion? Question called by Alderman McDonald. All in favor of approval as written, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. That passes, Ms. Bean, 4-0. Next item E, discuss and consider possible action on ordinance numbers 2013 TAC 08 and 2014 TAC 09 in regard to the appointment of persons to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Mr. Dela Rosa.
Okay, with the recent resignation of one of our members from the Planning and Zoning Commission, we have one vacancy. So you currently have a Planning and Zoning Commission comprised of 5 full members and 1 alternate. So what I did is I provided you the Planning and Zoning Commission composition out of the subdivision ordinance, out of the zoning ordinance dated 2013 and was amended again in December 2014. So section 2.2 of the zoning ordinance. You know, when you look at section 2.2 B1, it does say that there can be up to 2 alternates. You only have 1 alternate. It's difficult, and you can have them, they're 2-year terms, which follow state law. They can be staggered, they're not. But it does give you some flexibility. I've worked with a lot of planning and zoning commissions. I prefer the 5, no alternates. We drop one, somebody resigns, somebody gets removed, you just fill them. Alternates are, it's kind of hard what their authority is and whether it's really, what is an alternate and what's your authority? So when it's not really defined, especially in your type of situation, there are recommending bodies. If you were a home rule and the Planning and Zoning Commission actually made final decisions, that would be confusing. It could open up some legal issues for you. I don't like seeing them. But again, that's your decision. But I wanted to give you that information. And then on the second page, number 5. I was asked, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission may be removed from office at any time by a simple majority vote of the full Board of Aldermen. Okay? So, generally, sometimes you can't remove them without cause. That is not the way your ordinance is written, but I want you to know that. And if you have any questions on the criteria, we can always look at what other cities are doing. We can modify, especially since we've been discussing here recently advisory boards and statutory boards. The Planning and Zoning Commission and the Zoning Board of Adjustment are statutory. They have state law behind them. So it's more of a Q&A, and if you don't have any, we'll move on to the next one. You can discuss if you want to appoint somebody, but if you want to make changes, this is when I need to start at least giving some feedback on those changes.
Yeah, one, I don't know about this is not an automatic that the alternate gets to fill that vacancy, correct?
No, sir. You don't have those guidelines, and that's not automatic. Okay. So the way it reads is collectively you decide on any appointment. So this would be for a full member appointment.
So like when I was an alternate, I kind of walked this ladder. I was alternate for about 1.5 years, and then I just became available. I had to get appointed to that sitting position, and then they got a new office.
But statutorily, the alternates are not required, and you said you got
No.
that. So,
There's no reference in the statute, so you're not, but it doesn't speak that you can't have them.
And honestly, Mayor, I mean, it was a little off.
we don't know if we need them.
Yeah,
We don't have alternates.
you're in, you're out. I mean, it was,
So how long is the current alternate been sitting?
A year.
Yeah, certainly before me, I don't know.
About a year.
And
Personally, I'm fine with the change, but you've got a person who's been sitting on a year, and now you're gonna. So, you guys, you're doing. If that's what you do, I mean, it's just been, maybe going forward, we don't feel like, maybe you play this out, and then move on.
Yeah, and this is why I brought it, because part of what we were just discussing when we were discussing the advisory board is when you're selecting individuals, what is their background, what's their education, what is their skill set, right? Some places, and do you have some type, sometimes you want engineers, architects, people that understand planning and development. Same thing with the zoning board of adjustment. You look for, you don't have that criteria, which is, I did read one of your, the Park Advisory Board. It said on a resolution that they were experts in their field. I didn't see it, right? I mean, in 2021, again, you didn't define it very well, right? So what do you want to do with this? Now, some of the member that just stepped down, been under, he would have turned out pretty soon anyway. But as you're looking at these positions before you fill them, you may want to ask for a resume, why they want to serve. I mean, when I'm hiring somebody, I want you to give me a compelling reason why I should hire you for a certain position. We used to get that from advisory boards, just like when we sold vacant elected positions. I mean, I don't have anything to certainly the alternate or any one of them, but you now have an opportunity to look at the composition of that commission, look whose terms are up, and then collectively you need to decide how you're going to, basically, you've got some that are about to term out, and I believe that Mr. Penning is about to term out anyway, and I think you've got some others. So what are you going to do in the future, and what do you want that composition to look like, and what criteria you want to set for these volunteers when they're setting your future for the, remember, an ordinance or something sets out your future for the next 10, 20 years. Whatever they decide, it's a plan that takes a long time, right? Any development that starts today has an automatic 5-year vesting period. You can't turn that ship around in that short period of time. So be very, you need to think carefully about the direction that you're going in and who's going to help you in that direction.
I would recommend, if the board will allow it, we don't take any action on this tonight, and we're just given the direction to take a look and see what other municipalities are doing, seeing what their selection process is and what their parameters are and prerequisites, and then we move forward after that.
I support that, Mayor, but I'd like to ask a couple questions real quick. Sure. Mr. Del Rosa, based on your experience, have you, based on the fact that we don't have what you call a staggered board based on position and we're about to technically age out by statutory, how hard is that to reset that up in the process? Will that become a difficult task to do as well?
No, look, we're going to use a baseline. We know that someone came in about the same time 3 years ago, or back in 2021, I think, so we were going to stagger them back, just like the governing body.
Right.
Your 2-year terms, we were staggered, 3 and 3. We're going to try and do the same thing. So that I was actually going to try to number each position. There's 5 positions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 3, and 5. We have 1 term period. 2 and 4 with the other, and that way we keep them on the rotation, and we can keep much better track of when they term out. And again, the term limitations, whether it's advisory boards or you guys, you want a term limit for yourselves, but you're prohibited, right? But these changes are actually good for cities.
Thank you, Mr.
Mayor Pro
Del Rosa.
Tem, Bell's point, the current alternate, I agree, he's invested a year's worth of his time into this, and we allow him to continue on as an alternate until we get this thing worked out, and then he can work out. There's still a 2-year term also, right? The alternate.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so unless there's any objection from the board, we won't take any action on this, and we'll just take a look and see what other cities in the area are doing.
You don't have to make a decision right now. You've got 4 full members. You've got an alternate that's filling that role, so you've got 5. I need 3 to have a meeting in the meantime.
Should the alternate take voting members automatically?
It doesn't say, but we've been allowing it, and that's the confusion. Yeah,
I mean, if there was an absent seat and I was called to fill in, I voted.
Yeah, and I think that it makes sense, which is why. But even as the alternate, there was 5. We had 6 seats. I was, I asked the alternate to go ahead and sit at the dice with everybody. I mean, might as well feel part of the group.
Okay. All right, so we're not going to take any action on items E or F, correct? Okay. All right, skipping item G, item H, discuss and consider possible action on a request from Cook-Off for Cancer Salado for a barbecue cook-off on or about November 9th, 2024.
Hello, my name is Linda Poole, and along with Buddy Schwab, good evening. We operate Cook-Off for Cancer for Salado, and we have 4 fundraisers a year. The spring is the barbecue cook-off for the American Cancer Society honoring head and neck cancer, and in the fall is the chili cook-off. This year we'd like to have it at Pace Park. I know that is a big event going on already that day. We'd like to put it more in the afternoon, evening, so it hopefully will attract people to stay in town longer and raise money now for prostate cancer. This is since November is prostate cancer awareness.
What's the other event? Is that the Scottish Gathering?
Yeah.
All right.
And you're talking about what time are you looking at starting off, generally speaking?
This year we probably start off 3 to 4 p.m. and end up 5 to 6 p.m.
That's about the time the crowd starts waning over at the Scottish Festival, isn't it? Yeah. That's the only question I have.
Alderman Hurst. Alderman McDonald?
Yes. Hello, ma'am. So you're doing this for raising money for cancer. What organization is going to receive the funds for this?
We haven't picked one for this spring. This fall.
Yes.
Usually it's the American Cancer Society. Last it was in October, but it was just too hot. That was breast cancer awareness. We sent money to the Rose, about $2,000. So we will pick an organization for prostate awareness treatment funding.
Thank you for that answer. Mayor, I'd like to change this question to Mr. Del Rosa, if I could. Mr. Del Rosa, when an organization is doing something like this in Pace Park in the pavilion area, presumably, correct?
Yeah.
Is there any kind of legal requirements like insurance, anything to that effect that we should have, at least be able to have in place in case somebody gets hurt, burned? Just thinking out loud, we have a barbecue of some sort.
Yeah. The cities tend to allow nonprofits to utilize pavilions, park areas for this type. So generally, every city has a requirement that they get a permit, transactional, and which means that you just record who's making the request. Because when somebody rents it from you, it's $75 an hour for the first 3 hours, and if it's 4 hours, it's $350. Okay, so you get a lot of, and I've been informed that some churches have paid that. You also hear. So, but even if they are, if the Board of Aldermen does give a nonprofit the opportunity to utilize it at no cost, sometimes it's with insurance. And if not, then you're assuming any liability. Okay. Second thing is, and I heard nonprofits, and here's the thing with nonprofits: we would get a name of the nonprofit, who the person is representing that group. We get their nonprofit ID number, because when the state comptroller's office comes around auditing those records, you're allowed to have 2 fundraisers a year Anything after 2, you pay taxes on. Correct. So we have a duty, because if not, the state controller's office gets upset with the city, any group that provides these public areas and doesn't track who they are. So I actually worked at a city where we had people that were say, hey, I need a fundraiser because of medical benefits, right? Cancer or things like that, or just medical in general. We allowed them, but we got a copy of their driver's license, copy of their social security card, and we let them use it. That is between them and the IRS. That if somebody comes and asks for those records, we make it available because we have a duty to keep track of those things. Right. They're on public land.
And that is the basis of the question. So you understand, ma'am, I really look forward to your event, but in the same instance, I want to be able to protect the best interest of this community in that aspect.
We provide the insurance for liability, injury, property damage.
I'm really happy to hear that. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell. Nope. Even if are you guys a nonprofit?
Yes. We're not a charity. We're not a 501c3.
No.
Okay. So even with, if you're talking about transactional, if we're going to allow them to use Pace Park, even if they did not have, or a pavilion, if they did not have insurance, if it's a transactional issue, even if we say we can pay $1, now you have that transaction to kind of timestamp that, takes liability off of us, off the village, and places it on whoever rented. Now it's on them, correct?
Yeah, because you carry liability insurance already on the park, and that's why you charge. But when you do not charge, you certainly and you don't control the site. And if somebody rents the park, there's certain requirements. They go through an application process and they make a payment. That's what transactional is. Is it a there are community events, there are city events, and there are city supported events. So this is a community event. If you do not charge, then it's a city supported event. Because you've now basically become a partner, which means that you now carry some exposure. You just need to understand that exposure. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if it does, it is what it is. And as a matter of fact, I sent you an email not so long ago that said community events, and city sponsored.
Are they requesting a waiver of fees? I haven't seen that in here.
Yeah, yeah. If you're going to make a request, if you send me an email and says you want to use it, and you're not offering to pay, because I don't usually take reservations for parks. It goes to the front office.
Is that something that's going to come before the board, or are you going to make that determination about whether to waive those fees?
No, this is strictly easy. I've given you what your exposure is. You get to decide.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wood. Do you have anything else? Okay. I'll open that up to public comments as well. Crickets. All right. If there are any more questions for Mr. Del Rosa, or do you have anything you want to add? No. All right. I will open the floor for a motion.
Mayor, I recommend approval for the cost of $1 for item H as discussed. For the November 9th, 2024 cook-off.
Have they requested to do this for a fee, or to waive the fees?
Mayor, the way this email list and what I've provided, that's where we're at. That's where we're at, right? So my email was come before I'll present it. If it's a rental and there's nothing in here that I'm renting and I don't get the rental, when you send me something, and now I had the same gentleman send me something a few months ago, but not too long after I got here, there was another event there. Now so well, let it do it. Okay, I was still trying to learn how you do things here. So we didn't collect anything then. So if I didn't collect anything the first time, I wasn't offering anything. What am I going to think this time around?
Okay, motion was made by Alderman McDonald to approve it with a charge of $1 for the park, for the fee.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Graham. Any further discussion? Question called by Alderman Hurst. All in favor for approval and charging a $1 rental fee, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. This being that passed 4-0. Item I, discuss and consider possible action on the sublease agreement between the Village of Salado and the Salado Chamber of Commerce.
Okay. So, okay, Mayor Pro Tem, Alderman, the sublease agreement came in about 2 weeks ago. It expires at the end of September. It says before you, it was renewed on a 1-year term. If you do not renew it, it goes on a month-to-month. I just need direction as to what you want to do with this.
Alderman Graham, questions at the meeting?
I don't have any questions.
I have no questions.
No further questions. Thank you.
What is the actual cost? Because I can't read this.
It's $1,517. $1,517 per month.
Open up to public comment. Anybody have any public comment on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we renew the contract as written for the next year.
Motion by Alderman Graham. Do we have a second?
Second.
Before, if you don't mind, if we're going to renew for another year, I'd like to have legal review, or I'd like for it to be wordsmithed properly.
Yeah, I have no issue with that.
Okay, so, but it'll be for the same term period.
Alderman Graham, you agree?
I agree.
Alderman Hurst, you agree?
I agree with the legal review.
All right. I'll open it up for discussion. Graham, you going to discuss items?
Just that it's been talked about before that this will be funded with hot tax. There is great synergy over there right now between the Chamber of Commerce, the Tourism Department, the museum. So I think that there's a footprint over there that can be utilized and maximized, and I encourage its continued existence.
Any further discussion?
No, thank you.
Okay. Motion was made by Alderman Graham, and second also. Okay. If there are no further discussion, all in favor? Question called by Mayor Pro Tem Bell. All in favor. Action on the sublease agreement between the Village of Salado and the Salado Chamber of Commerce with the added verbiage. Say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no.
No.
That passes Ms. Bean 4-0.
No, it doesn't.
Huh?
I dissented. I dissented.
3-1, I'm sorry. Why'd you abstain?
I dissented. Not a
Discuss and consider possible action on the lease agreement between the Village of Salado and Presbyterian Church of Salado and Salado Storage LLC. Mr. De La Rosa.
Okay, I was asked to place this lease agreement, as we've been going through all of the records, looking at all of our leases after the Chamber of Commerce. I was asked to review the leases. I pulled this one up. I saw this early on. This agreement has been around since 2014, almost 10 years. So I did look up to see whether we were insuring the property in accordance with the agreement. I did. I provided that information in your packet. And I wasn't sure how we were insuring some of the sculptures that are out there. And so there you have so it is under, we have an agreement. So Texas Municipal League, Intergovernmental Risk Pool, our insurance carrier, provides liability insurance to the two owners, the church on the western side and the storage lot on the eastern side. It's split, and so that's why. And then we insure the sculpture. So, I don't know how we're insuring the sculptures, since I cannot find an agreement with these sculptors and whether we can actually insure something that we do not own. And I don't know whether we own it, because I've been told that we don't, and they can be sold. So, and like I said, we're not the ones that are the recipients of things when they're sold. So, so you've got this agreement. I don't know, look, in the 8 months, I'm being told that there's not a lot of traffic there. So whether we're getting a return on that investment, since we mow it, we pay, you know, for maintenance, and we know that there are trees down in that area, and if I'm going to be responsible for those trees, tree removal for down trees are very costly. Homeland that we don't own, it's not in the agreement. It does say we can't take down any trees without approval. Then talk about fallen trees. Right, so I need some direction. We want to maintain this agreement. I think you've got some issues with the sculptures being insured without having agreements in place. If you're insuring somebody else's property, the liability certainly protects you from anybody tripping, right? It doesn't have a driveway, it's a gravel driveway, and those kind of things. So again, I leave it to you to give me direction.
Do we have any data, Ms. Whitson, on visitors over there to the sculpture garden? No? Is there anything that we can track? Probably not.
QR code, so that when there's something to do, they can show a map. And that's something I did speak with our media to social. I don't know how easy that is to do. However, we do have things to do, and it is listed on there, if nothing else. And then they can put it on their website.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Graham, you have any questions?
Manny, do you think you would be able to take this and come back with a recommendation that would modify it to be more in line with the habitual relationships that are traditional to the lines of responsibility here? That's a very bad question for you. I'm sorry. I don't have a question. I have a comment. Okay. I can't figure out how to make it a question. Sorry.
Alderman Hurst.
I think what you're trying to say is, can we make up agreements with these two of the state? Like they're liable for down trees, limbs, stuff like that. Can you do that for us?
Yeah, yeah.
Then,
yeah, I can do that. Insuring its liability is not your issue as long as you've got a lease agreement. That's actually, this is the cleanest of what you got lately. It's insuring sculptures that we're going to have to find out exactly what it is and whether they can sell them and somebody else sells them, keep the proceeds, but we're insuring it. You're going to, if you file a claim, they're going to want proof that you have ownership or agreement. And if you spend public funds on something and those funds get remitted, they stay with the city. They don't, you can't, you're not a pass-through. That is not how government works. So I can fix the agreement and those down trees or something. I mean, look, if we're going to clean here, so I don't think it was ever considered that there's going to be down trees. They're active dogs that are rotted, they're on site, but it makes it unsightly. But it is expensive to remove trees. So are you getting a return? Now, it's just because we have a relationship and we want to maintain something, but you cannot spend hot funds on this property. It has to be general funds because you cannot prove that those that are coming to this site are staying at your hotel because you don't advertise it that way.
And that there's no benefit to the owner of those sculptures if we are not in fact the owners. There's no benefit to them for us to carry insurance, because to your point, if something happens to them and the check is cut, it comes back to the village. Okay. Alderman McDonald.
Mr. Del Rosa, do you know what the actual financial cost of that insurance is for this property as we're discussing it right now? Do we have a ballpark of what we're paying per year on that?
Yeah, I was trying to write, I didn't ask specifically, but I've seen the premium.
Sure.
You know, the liability alone for each property.
Yeah.
It's running around $400 each. That's $800. And I got the price on the sculpture, and that actually wasn't very much. It was like $360.
Okay. Understood. And the next question I would have is, I know that functionally, based on the discussion, it is a split piece of property between, I think, the Presbyterian Church there, as we discussed, and then the LLC, which is on the other side, correct? Am I saying that properly?
Yeah, the Salado Stores LLC.
Right on. So I'm just going to ask the magic question. Would this be useful to continue this process with the sculpture garden if by some miracle or chance both parties agree to convey that property to the village?
I think you would be in a much better position, and then you could work out a loan agreement.
Mm-hmm. Agreeable.
But you never assume somebody else's liability.
I agree. And my last general question would that be, I just want to not correct the mayor's language by any means. That's not how I want to say this, but I want to re-ask the question. So in other words, let's just pretend that all the sculptures disappear overnight and somebody, a cat burglar, gets them all, right? And you call it in and say, hey, look, we'd like to make a claim on this. What is the possibility of us actually getting the quote unquote dollar value that they were, we don't know what they're worth, back to the village? In other words, as refund, or would that insurance company be even required to pay us, or would they only give us back our premium? Yeah. Does that make sense why I'm asking that question, how I'm asking it? No, not really? So in other words, okay, let me try it again real fast. I'm sorry, everybody. If we don't own the land, we have it for $1. We don't own the artwork, it belongs to other people. And if we're insuring the artwork and it gets stolen, how do we legally claim value to cash a check from an insurance company if we don't own the tangible artwork that's there?
Yep. And when we get on to the next topic, when we discuss that, it will actually tell you what, because our insurance thinks that we have agreements in place.
That's where I was trying to get to. Thank you, sir.
We do not.
Okay.
I can't find that. And what I do find is only the board minutes, the board meeting minutes.
But there's nothing in ordinance that you're seeing right now, at least for this current conversation, that we can show.
That is correct. And the mayor, you were just with me when we dealt with the Texas Parks and Wildlife, the grant. You have to prove ownership, boundary survey, right? Before agencies pay out, insurance companies are the same thing. And you're going to see in this other agenda item, they believe you've got an agreement in place.
Thank you, Mr. De La Rosa, for answering all those questions.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell.
All right, so the value of all of these sculptures is subjective pretty much, right?
Yes, sir.
They haven't been valued, they haven't been appraised, they haven't gone through that, correct?
Yes, sir.
When, as I'm sure you have, talked to our attorneys about this and they hit their head against the wall for about 15 minutes. Have they had any comments or any ideas on a better way to do it?
No, look, there are ways to fix it. There are, and that's what I'm saying. I can. If that's what you want, I would have to redraft this with the attorney. It's not my first time. We ran museums and we had exhibits on loans that are very pricey, but you know, we only insure for what we think it is, not for what you think it is. These are very subjective valuations that were given to us, just like the when we discussed the cabinetsmith. the replacement cost last year was 66,000 and change. This year, 68,230. Right? So they do, and they add a valuation on it. And if you look at the different size buildings, they're all 68,000. One's 82 square feet, the other's 360 square feet. Right? Doesn't make much sense to me, but they'll take your premiums. Any insurance company will take your premiums until they got to pay out. And then if you can't prove that you have some type of stake in it, that ownership, then they're going to deny your claim. Right? Somewhere along the way, they thought that you had something, or they were told that there was going to be an agreement, or they were told something. So I can fix it for you. You just got to tell me what it is, and we have to go back to each one of the sculptures, the owners, get a loan agreement. But it is only going to be insured for if it gets stolen. But we have to have an agreement in place that actually makes it that it's on loan to us, and that we have some responsibility. You have no lighting, no cameras, no way tracking who comes in and out. You've taken on more exposure.
Okay, so do we want to take action on this, or do we want to table this until we can get some better agreements written?
And the lateness of the hour, I suggest you mull it over.
I would recommend table it, Mayor.
Okay.
No action at this time.
No action on item J. Okay, moving on, item K. Discuss and consider possible action on providing property and/or liability insurance on building structures located on the eastern side of Salado Civic Center, 601 North Main Street, belonging to or in the care of the Salado Historical Society. I think this is going to be more of the same, Mr. De La Rosa.
Okay, you'll see an email from Mrs. Beverly Turnbow dated about August asking me if I was going to insure the old churches, those three located off of Main Street over to the Salado Civic Center area. So this would be a fourth cabin at that site. Well, yes, her email dated June 5th. We called up on August 12th. What I did go back and I looked for some of your email, some of your correspondence in your meetings or in the files. There is an email, there's a letter in here from, let's start off from Mr. Kennison, dated February 15, 2021, addressed to Mayor Michael Coggin, and it shows all the Board of Aldermen down at the bottom left. And the position was, well, you're insuring the Kyle Sculpture Garden under village liability insurance. Why can't you insure our cabin? So that was in February 2021. July 14, 2021. First paragraph, this is from the prior city administrator to Bill Kennison. First paragraph, it says, the Board of Aldermen voted on June 3rd to 2021 to add the Salado Historical Society cabin to the Village of Salado general liability insurance policy. That did not occur. It went on the property, not liability, because I went that far back. The mayor asked me if I could find it. I did. It's been on the property, not liability. So then you go down to the third sentence. As you are aware, our insurance carrier requires the village to have a representative on the Historical Society Board of Directors for coverage to be provided. Mayor Coggin was selected to serve on that. That is not true. And the reason that is not true, if you go to the email that is provided by Ginger Castrano with CMLIRP, and you go down to the bottom, which is additionally for our conversation, the city currently insures the cabins located at 601 North Main, which belongs to the Historical Society. The city is just covering the structures and not the liability, as the city does not own the land or the cabins themselves, and is insuring the buildings through an agreement with the Historical Society. Okay? There was a note in there. They said, hey, I was told that you required it. They said, well, we do have a note in that. Well, let me go back to the history and find out why it's not. And then they said, oh, here it is. You don't own the land or the buildings. So we can't provide you liability insurance, so we deny it.
Washington, Christie.
So, look, I try to do my due diligence when I'm looking at these things. So you've got the cost of what it is. You're paying obviously $322 for each structure times 3, so $966 a year. And should the building get destroyed or something, that technically I've not found an agreement in your files that you can actually insure them. So if I was an insurance person, I would deny your claim.
So currently, those cabins are not insured. I mean, if
Well,
they
they
go,
are insured, but they're only insured for the property, whether it gets damaged or it can be rebuilt. But it's the proceeds go to the village. But it's saying, and here again, and insuring the building through an agreement with the historical. They believe that you have an agreement with your insurance carrier. That's why it's agreed to insure them.
But even with an agreement in place, we'll go back to the original question from the previous agenda item, there is no benefit to the Historical Society for us to carry insurance coverage on this, because if there's a payout, it's coming to the Village of Salado, not to the Historical Society.
It would be, yeah. Now think of it this way. I'm a grandfather. If I wanted to provide life insurance on my grandkids, I would need my children's permission before I can insure them. Right. We've all come into that position. Okay? You got to think of it in very specific terms. So, and you cannot utilize, I mean, I get requests from the hotel funds for this. It does not qualify under the hotel occupancy tax. So you're spending funds that you're again in jeopardy. I doubt you're gonna have difficulty proving ownership, or you're gonna have to clean up and get into agreement. But really, you become a partner. The funds come to you. You get to keep them. You get to rebuild it, working with them. But they're technically, the simplest thing in our system is when places I've been, they're actually conveyed. Just like we were talking about property, they're conveyed assets into the city assets. And we manage them, and then these nonprofits provide the programming for us, right. But they're under our umbrella.
Which would be the conventional way to go about executing. Yeah.
So at this point in time, we're utilizing taxpayer money to provide services to another organization. Understood.
Alderman Hurst, you have anything? You want to do America on the Wall? What do you?
I suggest you think about what it is, get back with me, digest the information. It's a lot to digest. Okay, it is. And we're an alderman. I think that this is, your insurance thinks that you don't really have rights to them. And I've got 2 lift stations that are out there in our community that are not even insured and haven't been insured in a long time. So I've got to add them to our liability in our property. So you don't have 2 lift stations, you actually have 4, or you have 3 and you're about to get a 4th. But you're paying you're paying the electric in the 4th one. So I now have time to go through all of your assets and try to determine what we've got.
Okay.
So, as Mayor, I think we should table it for tonight, and we'll take action. I recommend.
All right.
Don't forget to take comments.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and open this up for public comments. Mr. Kennison, do you want to speak on this? Come on up, sir.
I'm Bill Kennison, live at 1216 Salado Oaks Drive in Salado, and I'm here representing the Salado Historical Society as its president. I do have a few comments about this, and I do not appreciate the city manager giving you all that information without informing us of anything that he's found. We've been asking this question for some time now, and tonight we get the answer. I didn't hear it all. but I don't appreciate that. I'm being heard at this, at the meeting. But in any case, the Salado Historical Society does have 3 cabins that are insured under the village's general liability policy. That's what we were told in the letter. We have had no claims on that, anything on that property or in the buildings. And it's been looked at. There was an inspector that came by several months ago looking at the roof. No problem. So we'd like the village to add this to the these cabins and the new building, the 1908 church building, to the policy. Now, I don't know if that can be done or if it's feasible based on what I heard tonight. But in any case, I want the Board of Aldermen to know why we think this is important, why it ought to be considered. The buildings are on the school district property behind the Civic Center, and the Civic Center is currently supporting us by giving us are leasing us the land. It's not a monetary exchange, but it's an agreement we have. We have had an alderman on our board of trustees for 4 years since this. We are notified of the being insured, and we have no problems in having an alderman on our board. The complex of with these buildings now that we have what we call the 1908 church has been designated. We designated it as the Salado Historic Park because of the old buildings that are there that we are maintaining, and it is of benefit to the village because we do open them and we maintain them. And they're open for the public. The cabins with the church, when it's completed, are going to make this complex as a historic park. I think that'll be additional interest to people who come to Salado who are looking for something different, or they find out that it's a historic town and they'd like to see some of that history. I mean, it's all around us, but there isn't very much that's open because most of it is privately owned. But this new building is going to be a meeting room for public use. Now, we know we're getting a lot of visitors to our property. We conducted a study March through April, a 30-day period, and we had 165 people visited the log cabins. A lot of them were from the area, Bell County area, and even further, Waco, Austin, those places. But then we also had people who came from Seguin, Denton, Midland, Houston, Dallas, San Marcos, Oklahoma City, Smithfield, Missouri, New Braunfels, San Antonio, England, Naples, Florida, Sugar Land, Texas, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But like I said, most of them are from this area. So yes, it's very, very possible that some of these people come and stay overnight, and then they find the log cabins and come and visit. The Historical Society does help attract visitors and contribute to tourism, as these numbers suggest. And we do produce that special feeling that the village has. And I've heard that mentioned tonight by the tourism director as people find or get this feeling or this vibe from Salado. And I think the Historical Society helps provide that by the cabins and also the fact that we have identified over 60 historic sites in Salado. And we have mapped out 43 of them, and they have signs. And I was just looking, if you are going down Main Street or some of the side streets and you see a blue sign with a number on it, you can go to your iPhone, you can open it up. I have an app here that's called Village Visit Salado. Open it up. First thing it says is historic. Open that up, and it starts right here with number 1, Salado College Ruins. Number 2, Salado Museum. It's all here. You can find out a lot about Salado by walking around. I think that's what people like about Salado. When they walk around, they see these historic sites, and it gives them a feeling. Now, we know this because we have some first-hand evidence of that from visitors who came to Salado not too long ago, and they said that they had this special feeling from Salado. And say these visitors were asked, they walked around Salado and then they were asked, well, give us an opinion, give us what you think about Salado, what you saw when you were here walking around. And this is a quote. They use these words: friendly, approachable, authentic, and endearing. And then they went on to say, it takes you back. You feel like you just stepped back in time. Some towns are pretend cute. Salado is authentically adorable. Where does that come from? That comes from visitors who come to Salado and they discover Salado. And by discovering it, they get that feeling. And this is what tourists are looking for. I know you've been places and you come across things you didn't expect to see, but you find them interesting and you enjoy the visit. What the Historical Society is doing is referred to as heritage tourism. This is something the Texas Historical Commission is promoting. It's heritage tourism. Programs, they like these programs because they support the development and promotion of what they refer to as place-based heritage experience.
Okay, Mr. Kennison, can I interrupt you for a second? We're discussing this agenda item specifically about the buildings over on the Civic Center property.
Right.
I appreciate the information, but in the interest of time, let's stick to the agenda item and let's talk about that.
Okay,
what is the benefit to the Historical Society for us as the village and taxpayers to continue to pay insurance premiums on property that we don't own, and if it burns down tomorrow and we get dollars for that, you're going to get none of the money for it?
Right.
How does that benefit the Historical Society?
It benefits the Historical Society, or actually it benefits the village more than the Historical Society, because this is what we're doing for the village, and that has value for tourism. And that's why we want our buildings insured. But as I found out, and of course it changes everything, that liability insurance is not what would be provided. It's just property.
Mm-hmm. Who was the member of the board that's on the Historical Society board?
Mike Coggins.
Okay.
And if you need to know, he didn't attend very many meetings. He was in name only mainly.
That's good information to have. So my next statement is that, and I'm kind of taking exception to the comments toward Mr. De La Rosa. He's under no obligation to report to you or any other organization outside of here about what your condition of your insurance is. He reports to me in this Board of Aldermen, and he did that. And calling him out publicly like that, I think is just inappropriate. And so maybe save those comments for an email next time. He's under no obligation to report to you what your status. You should know what the status of your buildings are and your structures are, not him. So do you have any more for us?
No.
Thank you. Alderman Graham, you have any questions?
So Manny, as the insurance stands right now, what is the village insuring as we speak?
The building is insured at 3 cabins for property, real property only, not liability.
Okay. So if it burns down, the village would get the money for it.
We would make a claim.
But we wouldn't be able to, that claim would get refused because we don't own that property though, right?
We don't have an agreement.
We don't have an agreement.
That's what the email said. It was part of the conversation. So the conversation was, I said, can you give it to me in writing? I met Ginger when I first came here.
Yeah.
So she's our rep. She said, yep, she goes, yeah, let me streamline for you and see what you got.
So the only way those buildings are protected, let me put it this way. What I'm most concerned about is, let's say those buildings burn down. Buildings we don't own. And then it comes time to file a claim. If we have an agreement in place, would that claim then be honored? Is it fair to assume that?
Yes, sir.
And then the village would get money, and then we could work
restore
through that agreement to get those.
Yeah, we would
taken
be
care of.
involved in the restoration if it could be restored.
Yeah, this whole thing's just really weird because in a traditional city, the city owns the buildings and the property, and like you talked about. Okay, I guess that's all the questions I have.
And the payout $68,000.
It would pay us, yes, sir. Notice 68,000 for all three buildings, each one, and they're all different sized buildings. One is smallest.
You're not
82.
on a building for $68,000.
Yeah. No, that 68 is not going to cover anything. All you got to do is take a look in the newspaper and see how much it's costing to redo the 1908.
Okay. Alderman Hurst. Alderman McDonald.
Just a reflection of Alderman Graham's comment in general terms. Even with an agreement, the point that I'm going to say out loud professionally is that we are still going to be placed in a position that we're supporting another nonprofit organization that is not, we're using taxpayer money. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Okay, and it's not a negative connotation to the Historic Society. They are a nonprofit organization, and by the numbers I'm looking at here, and I don't tell people how to run their program, but I'm looking at a dollar sign of somewhere around $1,000 for them to maintain control, and when it does burn down, they can recover that money and then rebuild if necessary. That's kind of where I was going with. So thank you for your time.
Fair question, Bill. Any more public comments on this?
Mike French, 201 Carriage House Road. Just wanted to get clear on what I heard. The village has been paying insurance, question on what that insurance is, on buildings that we don't own and land that we don't. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And it doesn't sound like a good choice because there's a whole list that I can give you out of your own comprehensive plan of historic sites that have their public. They're not, I mean, they're private, they're not public, but they have some of the same concerns about insurance, and maybe they want to come to the village and ask the same question. So recognize that you're having to redo things that were either done in the past or thought were done in the past, and I don't really see it in the best interest of the village to pay insurance on stuff we don't own, and still doesn't address what I understand, the liability. Who's going to deal with that? That's it. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Or 123 Rock Creek Drive, and I feel very much the same as you just said. I love the Historic Society. I love what they've done around here, but I had an offer. We talked earlier about the sculpture done. There were some sculptures that when they moved the church, there was a sculpture they wanted to put on our property. And I went to an attorney, I went to our attorney, and said, what do we have to do this? And what he said is we have to have a written agreement with the owner and liability insurance on that specific item. And so if somebody cuts themselves on that, that falls against it or something. And if we're going to cover it, then we would need to cover it, because if it's loaned to us and it's stolen, we're responsible for it. But the whole issue, and I posted that, I actually posed that to it's the Salado Beautiful organization. I said, okay, as long as we have a written agreement, a contract, and everybody is spelled out exactly who's responsible for what and how long it's going to stay there. The lawyer said we need a very specific contract. Otherwise, we're liable. But with nothing on there, we're just liable across the board. He said there's no way in the world that an insurance company is going to pay you for that unless you have a written contract. In other words, they basically would need to loan it to us. They actually pay us to have it on the property, or we pay them. They have a contract. And so I said I'd be glad to do it, but they have to have a contract and they have to have it drawn up by an attorney, and they turned me down. And I think it's over in the sculpture argument. So I just wanted to relate to you. The same thing is true of these buildings out here. To agree that the village takes responsibility for them. If the building, then let's ensure it if they belong to the village, and if there's a village, and the village is responsible for it. If they're not, then the argument that every historical building in this town should be insured by the village without conveyance of the property would be a really good argument in this town to support.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Mr. Del Rosa, you got anything further on that?
No second.
All right.
I'll open the floor for a motion.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Well, I'll make a motion that we table the item and ask Mr. Del Rosa to go back and visit with our attorney to come up with an agreement that may be one that we can work with until we get that item tabled. This will be tabled.
Motion to table with instructions given to Del Rosa by Mayor Pro Tem Bell. Seconded by Alderman Hurst. Any further discussion?
Just a little bit of discussion on this one.
Sorry.
So, I mean, to your point, it doesn't make plain old horse sense to insure something that you don't own. So, either pardon my French, a crap ton of stuff better get conveyed over to the village, or it doesn't make sense. And, you know, I led the charge on the historic district overlay. I'm a big fan. It's not that I'm against any of that. It's that these lines of responsibility when it comes to this insurance aren't clear. And if we're going to be open and transparent and clear and straightforward, then why are we having insurance agreements that don't reflect that?
I think, Alderman McDonald, you asked me, you posed the question, and I said, I cannot make an informed determination until I see the agreement between the Salado Historical Society and the school district. Right. That may tell me exactly what their expectations were.
Okay.
And maybe the liability is in that agreement. I suspect that there was one.
And maybe the school district is carrying the liability on those places?
They may.
What a crazy hodgepodge of madness.
We heard that they have a lease agreement, no money or $1, something like that.
Yeah.
So remember I said transactional, you just did it for $1?
Right.
Right? Because you want to make sure that you have a transaction in place, you shift responsibility. Right? So I'll make an open records request for that document. That way it'll tell me, because I'm going to need it for our city attorney, and then at that time I'll have our city attorney give you a legal opinion on what your options are. But you're on a path that I'm very familiar with. I'll look to see what other avenues are available, but you should get a legal opinion telling you exactly what you shouldn't hear the exposure from me. I'm telling you from a practitioner what it is.
All right, there's a motion and a second to table this with instructions.
Question.
Question called by Alderman McDonald, all in favor of tabling it? Yes.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Next, item L, discuss and consider possible action on approving ordinance number 2024 TAC 19, an ordinance of the Village of Salado, Texas, regulating water and sewer line extensions and providing findings of fact, effective date, repealer, severability clause, and proper notice and meeting. Mr. Del Rosa.
Okay, Mayor and Alderman, I am recommending approval of this ordinance. It is a pro rata reimbursement agreement for anyone that extends water or sewer. And I say that because we may have water lines in the future as part of our other developments. But what it is say that you run a line for some distance, let's just say 1,000 linear feet, because the developer wants that sewer service. Anybody that connects onto that line, he is entitled to get a pro rata reimbursement through an agreement through us. In other words, anybody connecting it would pay not only our impact fee, but their fair portion of what needs to get reimbursed to that person that fronted those funds. It's remitted to us, and then we forward it through an agreement. But this ordinance at least sets the guidelines for that formula, how we're going to do this. So what I did is I pulled it from the last city that I worked at. I sent it to the city attorney. He reviewed it, compared it to a few other cities, made some changes, simplify the formula that was easier to read for anybody wanting to read this outside of the engineers. That way, we've now got something that we can utilize. For example, we've been in discussions with developers, property owners to the north of us, north of where we end, that we would like to be able to do this. It could also be used for residential development as we continue to go down Royal Street or other areas. And developers, anybody connected to it, should have an opportunity to get reimbursed if they pay for it up front. At least it helps you from you issuing debt and then trying to collect later. So it's called a Texas Local Government Code Chapter 380 allows this reimbursement for a period not to exceed 10 years. So in other words, developer fronts it runs the clock. If he doesn't get reimbursed at that 10-year period, it stops. So it does have an expiration period. So I am recommending approval of this ordinance, and I hope to use it very, very soon.
Okay. Any public comments? Alderman Graham, you have any questions?
No questions.
Alderman Hurst?
No questions.
Alderman McDonald?
No questions. Thank
Mayor
you.
Pro Tem Bell?
No.
All right. If there's no further questions, I will open the floor for a motion.
Move we accept ordinance number 2024-19 as presented by.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Bell to approve as written.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Graham. Any further discussion? Question called by Alderman McDonald. All in favor of approving ordinance 2024 TAC 19 as written, say yes.
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 Any opposed? 4-0. Ms. Bean passes. M, discuss and consider possible action on approving ordinance number 2024 TAC 20, an ordinance of the Village of Salado, Texas, amending ordinance number 2002.20, amending the sign application fee and providing findings of fact, effective date, repealer, severability clause, and proper notice and meeting. Mr. De La Rosa.
Okay, at the most recent meeting, we just adopted a new ordinance that sets the building permit amount. A couple of days later, I realized that the sign permit was actually in a separate ordinance. It's got a lot of rules and regulations when it comes to sign permits. The fee was either $15 or $35. I can't recall. One of those two. It was crazy. You can't get much done now. And the reason I proposed it at $200 with a reinspection of $95, you can't get Bureau Veritas to come up for less than $92.50. I just rounded it to $95. The $200 is most of these sign permits are going for commercial businesses. So what you've got is a sign, as long as they meet those requirements. But sometimes they have the structural issues that you got to send an engineer to look at it. or you've got electrical in them, power. So a $35 fee, but you've been subsidizing a lot of your signage and lights. Look at water decks, right? The apartments, every one of those signs came in at what is that rate. So again, it is us not subsidizing development anymore or businesses. Homeowners aren't going to put signs, right? It's going to be a business. So you can certainly change that rate, reduce it, but I wouldn't reduce it much. I try to incorporate the building inspections, evaluations with a 20% administrative fee. So I stayed in that same ballpark that we did with the building permit. I'm recommending approval.
Thank you, sir. Any public comments? All right, Alderman Graham,
No questions.
Alderman Hurst,
No question.
Alderman McDonald,
No questions, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell.
Danny, what are the first possibly 3 businesses that are going to fall under this if this is approved?
I can tell you that we are talking to 2 businesses already in the QT area, and we get signs pretty often changing out signs. And every time they change it out, they got to get a permit.
So has McDonald's already got their sign permit done?
As a matter of fact, Dean, I think they called and they don't. They don't have it yet. They're in the process of just not getting it, so this new ordinance would be applicable. Yeah, we just had that conversation today with Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, if there's no more questions, I will open the floor for a motion.
Move to adopt ordinance 2024-20. Is everybody excited?
Motion made by Alderman, or Mayor Pro Tem Bell to approve as written.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Hurst. Any further discussion?
Question.
Question called by Alderman Grant. All in favor of approval of ordinance 2024 TAC 20 as written, say yes.
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 Any opposed? Ms. Bean, that passes 4-0. Before we enter into the next item, which is executive session, I have a request to speak on this agenda item. So, Mr. Larry Michaels, the podium is yours. Okay. Good enough. All right. The time is 9:07, and we are entering into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.072 and 551.073 regarding their proposed Mustang Springs Public Improvement District. 9:07. Okay, the time is 9:48 and we are exiting executive session. Okay, item 8A, discussion of possible action on items from the executive session. Discuss and consider possible action on a resolution accepting a petition for the creation of the Mustang Springs Public Improvement District and calling for a public hearing. Mr. Del Rosa, you want to give us a explanation of that, please?
Yes, sir. You've got before you what we numbered as resolution number 2024-05. This will establish a public hearing, I believe it's October 3rd of 2024 at 2:30 p.m. here, and also the acceptance of the petition and the petition for the creation of the Mustang Springs Public Improvement District within the city limits is Exhibit A of this resolution. And then Exhibit B is the property description. It is staff's recommendation that the resolution be approved.
Thank you, sir. I will now open this up to public comments. None? Okay. Alderman Graham, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Alderman Hurst?
No questions.
Alderman McDonald?
No questions, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell?
No question.
All right, if there are no questions, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we accept the petition for the creation of Mustang Springs Public Improvement District and calling for its public hearing.
Motion made by Alderman Graham to accept the petition as written.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman McDonald. Any further discussion? Question called by Alderman Hurst. All in favor of accepting a petition for the creation of the Mustang Springs Public Improvement District and calling for a public hearing, say yes.
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 Any opposed? That passes. Ms. Dean, 4-0. Next item B, discuss and consider possible action on authorizing and negotiating the execution of a professional services agreement for the Mustang Springs Public Improvement District. Mr. Del Rosa.
Okay, this agreement is titled the Village of Salado, Texas Deposit Agreement Proposed Public Improvement District, also known as the Mustang Springs PID. What it does is that it'll allow for the developer to put up the escrow amount, I believe it's at 40 to 45,000. What it does is so that we can have consultants starting to work on behalf of making time whatever we need to make a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen at a future date. So it is that recommendation that it be approved.
Thank you, sir. Any public comments? If there are none, Alderman Graham, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Alderman Hurst?
No questions.
Alderman McDonald?
No questions.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell?
Nope.
All right, I entertain a motion, please.
A motion to approve is written, Mayor.
Motion to approve as written by Alderman McDonald,
Second.
seconded by Alderman Graham. Any further discussion?
Question.
Question called by Alderman Hurst. All in favor of authorizing and negotiating the execution of a professional services agreement for the Mustang Springs Public Improvement District, say yes.
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 Any opposed? That's 4-0, Ms. Bean. That passes. All right, next item is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved. 9:52. Thank you.
Thank you.